Hello friends, thanks for tuning in and talking about this genus Ceanothus with me. The genus Ceanothus has a ton of common names. Actually, I think the most well-known one, especially the one we're going to use for plant tax, is California lilac. But get a hoot of this list. It's also known as soapbush, whitethorn, pine mat, butterfly bush, buckbrush, muskbrush, deerbrush, and many other things. It's in the family Rhamnaceae. We're not officially picking up any family characteristics, though, just genus Ceanothus. In fact, a lot of the common names for species within this genus is Ceanothus. Huge genus. It's a very ecologically and especially ecologically important member of the California flora. All across the state, you'll see members of this genus that look kind of like this because it's always going to have that shrubby habit. This is a very woody plant. They're almost always going to be kind of upright and erect shrubby such as this. Sometimes those shrubs have thorns. Those thorns are extremely rigid. And let me tell you from experience, not fun to walk through if you have to. Other times, though, the habit of members of this genus are sort of more creeping and mat-like. So here, they're definitely woody plants, very long-lived perennials oftentimes, but this one just does not form an upright, erect shrub habit. It stays very low-growing. Something else that's interesting about this genus is that they do nitrogen fixation. So if you were to kind of dig up some of their roots, you'd find nodules that have these mutualistic relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria. So this makes them very important to other California members, other members of the California flora. Pollinators love them, as you can tell from their flowers in this picture at least. Really brightly colored flowers. Usually shrubs will produce hundreds of thousands of flowers throughout their lifetime. Probably more like millions for many of them, because these flowers are very, very tiny. So they're able to produce copious amounts of them. Different look at some other species colors. They also come in light purple, more bluish, really spectacular indigo colors. My particular favorite colored flower is this one variety of Ceanothus called Dark Star, super heady color. It's great. As you can kind of see from this picture, especially from this kind of one flower that's out on its own right here, we have a kind of unique look at at what's going on in these flowers. These spoon-shaped things, that's not a good color for that. These spoon-shaped things right here that are sort of in this shape, these are actually the petals. And there's 5 of them. That's a 5. The shape of them kind of reminds you of your spatula or a spoon, and they tend to call this shape spatulate, or sometimes spatulate is how it's pronounced or spelled. Yeah, kind of like a spatula. These things, on the other hand, these things that are sort of in the middle of them, are more triangular shaped, and there's, again, 5 of them. These are the sepals. And there are, again, 5 of them. Okay, so the petals are more spreading while the sepals are more erect here. And then right in between those 5 sepals, you can see those 5 stamens emerging from them. And you can also kind of glean from this picture that members of this genus have actinomorphic flowers. Now here's a closer look at them under the microscope. And I think what you can see from this picture right here is that their gynoecia are composed of 3 fused carpels. Okay. Now, they also do have a small hypanthium, which you can kind of see in, no, not this picture, but the next picture. In this picture, you can sort of see the inflorescence type. They do have a variety of inflorescences. Sometimes they're like this, sort of umbel-like. Sometimes they're more panicle-like, more raceme-like even. And here are those hypanthia. What you can see is that this structure right here is the hypanthium. The actual ovary is approximately, it's all, this is the developing fruit, by the way, in this picture. The ovary is sort of like this. And that's why the hypanthium is coming up over the ovary a bit, and this is why people call Ceanothus a flower with a half inferior ovary. I don't know if you like that term very much or not, But again, this is a picture of their fruits. Here's another picture of their fruits sort of when they're older and they've already dehisced. So in this first picture on the right, this is sort of when those capsules are still developing. And then this picture here on the left, this one is about to be mature. This one is right at the right maturity. And then what happens is the whole top part of this pops off. So like this whole entire unit right here will just pop off. And then it'll leave behind these structures. That's what these are. They're the little remnants of the fruits that have already lost their top part and released their seeds. They tend to call these pop-top capsules, and they sort of dehisce in a circumscissile fashion where the opening is all the way around the outside of the capsule. Here's another look at their fruits sort of in the wilds. And this is a cool one. I found this picture of a mutant. This one. It's not supposed to have 4 carpels normally, and you can see in all of these other pictures in this slideshow, they have those 3 fused carpels. Next slide showing a closer up look at their foliage. Sometimes they have this look with opposite leaves. These giant structures right here that you can actually see at each node, those are stipules. They have these really heavy-duty woody stipules, sometimes. Other times, like this species, they have these really dinky, flimsy stipules. Like there's one in this picture. Here's another one kind of right here. You can barely even see it. You would never think much of it. Here's a little small stipule right there. And in this picture, you can also see the leaves, they're not opposite. They're alternate. So it turns out this genus is so big that it's sort of split into 2 subgenera. But we are going to talk about the types of features you would find within each subgenus, because you don't really see an overlap of the features. So when you have one like this, see in the picture from the Jepson on the left here, we have opposite leaves. There's a node, there's a node, there's a node, opposite leaves. So I'm gonna write that in the box here, OPP for opposite. When you have opposite leaves, this is the first picture that I showed you where the stipules were really woody. You're going to tend to see this correlation. Opposite leaves will go with those woody, really long-lived stipules. The other look here on the right, the one you can see from the Jepson image on the right here, the leaves, they're alternate. There's a leaf at a node, there's a leaf at a node. And we only have 1 leaf per node. So we call that alternate, ALT for short. This is the second picture I showed you where the stipules are very flimsy, they're short-lived. I'm going to write deciduous. Or ephemeral might be another way to say that. They're very inconspicuous as well. Now, what we can see from the undersides of the leaves here is the venation. Generally, when you've got the opposite leaves and those woody stipules, the major leaf venation is sort of typical pinnate. As you can see from this picture, you've got that one main mid vein, and then those secondary veins are just coming off of that main mid vein. Well, the picture on the right here is a little different. We actually have exactly 3 main mid veins, and they're all pretty equal with one another. So we're going to call this 3 main veins. This is the type of leaf that will be found on a species of Ceanothus that has alternate leaves and deciduous stipules. They kind of all go together. And the last feature that kind of goes with each subgenus here is that for this last one, or this one we were just talking about, subgenus B, the underside of the leaf is not very exciting. It's either gray or green throughout. It's not very exciting. It's sort of a normal underside of a leaf. But the undersides of the leaves of subgenus A look like this. Can you tell from this picture that there's these little kind of spots, or as one might describe the undersides of the leaves as being mottled? Those little spots are actually associated with these crypts, these deep rooms, these tiny little microscopic rooms that are holding stomates, those little tiny pores for gas exchange. So these types of species tend to live in places that are really dry, and so they're going to want to be protecting those openings, which are vital for gas exchange. So the undersides of the leaves are mottled. That's an M, M-O-T-T-L-E-D. In subgenus A. If you were wondering, subgenus A is called Cerastes, and subgenus B is a little confusing. It's actually also called Ceanothus, even though the genus is called Ceanothus. All right, that's all I've got for you for this one. See you next time.